Hello guys, I'm Spicy Bill. Welcome to the first episode of Real Grade versus High Grade. So yeah, I don't just build high grades, I also build real grades. So technically this is a re-review, but today I will be comparing an actual Gundam Mark II, real grade Gundam Mark II to a high grade Gundam Mark II. And all these are in the 1/144 scale. So let's go ahead and start with the Gundam Mark IIs, and then we'll move to the Exius. So obviously you can see the difference in detail between the high grade and the real grade. This one right here is the high grade revive version of the Gundam Mark II. Also some minor proportion differences. So you can see the real grade Gundam Mark II has a ton of details. Yeah. So yeah, the amount of detail they put into the real grade kits, sometimes they have more detail than some of the master grade kits. So it's definitely something very, very unique and interesting. So anyway, they're the same scale. I mean, the height is pretty much on par with each other. Slight proportional differences, but the real grade offers so much more. For example, the shield. The shield is actually very nice. You can collapse the shield simply by doing so, like that. With the high grade version, you actually have to take it apart. And the real grade offers much more articulation. Obviously, we got the double jointed elbow. We got this hinge right here for the shoulder armor that can go up, and the shoulder armor can also kind of separate to bring out more detail, like so. So that's actually very interesting. We got the bicep articulation, and the real grade also features a full inner frame, which is very nice. And you can just see the amount of detail. It got these very nice looking power cables, which are separate parts. We also have a power cable on the leg, which are also separate parts. And yeah, it just got so much gimmick packed into this tiny 1/144 scale kit. It's just insane. We got gimmicks up here for the sight. This whole sight section can be moved forward or swing down, like so. So that's definitely something that you won't see on a high grade kit. This whole gun is pretty much just molded into one piece. Even the magazine is molded into part of the weapon. And with this kit, you can actually remove the magazine. So yeah, that's definitely very nice. Okay, and then obviously, I think with the real grade Mark II, there's actually that switch right there to activate the waist section. There we go. So basically, unlike the Astray Red Frame, I wasn't able to demonstrate this gimmick. Basically, you have this switch here that you can pull out, and that gives the Gundam Mark II increased waist articulation, which is very nice. And also, it's got the notch here to attach the bazooka if you want to. So that's definitely nice. And I believe we also have the working cockpit gimmick. This is something usually are present on master grades, but on the real grade, yeah, you can also open up the cockpit, which is super nice. And surprisingly, the Mark II is actually one of the better real grades because it doesn't have a lot of the issues some of the real grade kit has. And we also got decent amount of part separation right there. A lot of the armor parts are multiple parts and different shade of blue right there. With the high grade, they're pretty much just, this thing is not even part separation. This whole like armor piece is just one piece that you attach it. Yeah, so that's a little bit disappointing there. But this is a pretty solid kit for a very, very good price. So anyway, this guy got much more detailed Vulcan pot system compared to the one on the high grade, which is once again, I think it's like just two parts snapped together. And yeah, let's take a look at the, oops. Let's take a look at the part separation for the knee. So when you bend the knee, you can see that the armor actually moved right here. So that's definitely nice. And we also have the toe articulation here. I really like that part separation. You can see all these parts moving when the leg bends. And yeah, this is a known issue with real grade kits. Sometimes the parts do like to come off. So just be aware of that. The newer kits have a lot better engineering, so you won't run into this kind of problem with like the older kits. It kind of happens, and you have to just be aware of like which one has like the most problems with parts falling off. I know a lot of the older real grade kits have that kind of problem, but the newer ones are generally pretty good. The Mark II is actually one of the older kits, but this one is just very well done. I mean, there's really isn't any significant problem. The only issue I had with building the real grade Mark II is these power cables are very annoying to do. So basically what you want to do, you might want to glue the tips on these power cables so they stay in. It's like basically a bendy wire covered by these, I think like cloth style hoses or something like that. So yeah, that can be very problematic. And taking a look at the high grade, after looking at the real grade, you can see that this is very simple. This is a very simplistic design. They did upgrade the articulation for the Mark II for the Revive version, so we could double join the knee. But yeah, nowhere near as detailed as the real grade, but still a pretty solid kit. This is a kit that I would recommend getting, just for for display and stuff like that. It's very cheap, and it's got decent gimmicks, and it still looks pretty good. So yeah, if you don't want to spend like 10 hours building like a model kit, you can just get something like this, which you can probably finish in like less than 3 hours. 3 hours if you put in a ton of work on it. Or if you do snap build, you can probably build a kit in like 30 minutes. And it's a very solid kit. This thing is super solid, yeah. You don't have to deal with the general flimsiness that you would expect from real grade, although no, this guy's actually rock solid too. Just some of the armor parts like to come off if you decided to play around with it. But if you keep it in one spot, this kit is super solid. It's even heavier than the high grade. This thing feels like a robot Damashi, to be honest with you. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the real grade Gundam Mark II versus the real high grade Gundam Mark II. There we go. And this is not a very fair comparison because the high grade Exia is actually really old. And the technology is just not really there. It does still have the double jointed knee, so that's nice. I think this one's a custom kit batch that I did. So it's got the Exia Repair 2 style thigh cut. And yeah, I do not like the proportion of the high grade Exia's arms. You can see the elbow joints is really big, and it just kind of looks silly, to be honest with you. Yeah, and obviously we got the instead of the bicep swivel, we got this very weird elbow swivel. Now the design is carry over even to the real grade, because the way the real grade Exia's design, he's got this power cable that supposed to go onto the bicep section, and that hinders articulation. So you can see it right there. We'll talk about that once we get to that kit. But you can see the major differences in the face. You can see that. Yeah, definitely much more detailed when it comes to the real grade. So let's just do a quick side-by-side comparison between the two kits. Obviously, I did not have the GN sword equipped on the real grade Exia. And let's go ahead and take off some equipment on this kit, so stuff doesn't get cluttered. There we go. Yeah, let's set that aside. And you can see the major difference. I mean, it's basically night and day when it comes to details. Yeah, you do have to paint a lot of the parts on the back of the high grade kits, and look at that. This is a full sticker. So yeah, it's definitely not a fair comparison when it comes to the Gundam Double kits. Articulation on this guy is still okay. I mean, don't expect too much from it. You know, all these parts are pretty much just, at least we got part separation for the chest, which is pretty decent. You know, we got the butterfly joint, the head can rotate and stuff like that. It's still a pretty solid kit, and you know, for like $15, I think the high grade Exia is still, you know, nice for you know, maybe for beginner builders and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a pretty decent kit, and you can probably put one together in less than like an hour or something if you're just gonna snap build. And you really don't have to do a lot of you know, there's really not a lot of painting involved when it comes to the Gundam Exia, so you're pretty much okay. Now the real grade Exia is probably one of the best real grade kits out there. I mean, you look at all the extra, all the special gimmicks that they added to this kit, such as these special film parts or something, these really clear plastic parts. Those are really nice. There's also some underneath, looking really good, and the power cables on the shoulder. There's even some of that on the headpiece. This kit is incredible. It's not as awesome as the Unicorn or the real grade Sazabi, you know, in terms of the presence, but you know, it's got a lot of detail, and it's got, you know, a lot of gimmicks. Like all these beam saber hilts can actually move on the shoulder armor, on the side skirt, stuff like that. And it's got really, really good articulation and part separation. So you can see right here, we have the double jointed knee. And when you move it, the armor also separates, which is super nice. And we got the feet articulation right here. We even have the toe articulation, so that's super cool. And yeah, you can put your hands here without fearing the ankle armor coming off. If you do that with a high grade, this is a very typical problem with the high grade. Oh, you know, like sometimes your hand would just naturally touch the kit on where the ankle armor are, and this thing pops off super easily. So yeah, you can see almost barely any detail on the legs on the high grade, but tons and tons of detail on the real grade. It just went all out. And we also have the we also have a lot of gimmicks here on the side skirt, or these parts where you can just swing these pieces down here and let it attach the weapons. So that's definitely really cool. And another cool gimmick with the real grade is that there's an opening cockpit gimmick. So yeah, that's definitely cool. We do have ab rotation right here, and we have yeah, just like the high grade. Unfortunately, I think this is like a problem with the Exia. There's no ab crunch. Yeah, I don't know if the master grade has an ab crunch or not, but yeah, unfortunately the Exia doesn't. Even the real grade Exia doesn't. It's not capable of doing an ab crunch. It kind of look like it can. It can kind of flex, but I think that's pretty much it. I wouldn't risk like trying to force it into you know, that kind of pose. But anyway, we also got this butterfly joint right here with the armor separation. Very nice. Arm can rotate 360, and these you can see the two different shade of armor right here. This is like a lighter blue, and this part is like a darker blue. So you got a lot of part separation here. This is inherited from the high grade due to the fact that, like I said before, the power cable is attached to the biceps, so you're just stuck with that. But anyway, we got the double jointed elbows, the ball jointed wrists, and obviously all these real grade kits prior to 2017 all come with those very gimmicky real grade hands, which are pretty much useless. And yeah, The real grade kits cost pretty much about like around 20 to 30 US dollars, while the high grade kits are like 10 to $15. So yeah, you definitely paying a lot more for the real grade. But you know, if you really looking into spending like 5 to 10 hours building like a smaller 1/44 scale kit with a lot and lots of small parts, I think the real grade line will be something that might interest you. Yeah, I think more like the more modern kits, like the Unicorn and the newer kits, they try to stay away from like the smaller parts, because I think that's the thing that really turned people off when it comes to real grades. Is so many tiny parts to manage. So they decided to make the kits more like a master grade, like a scaled down master grade, with somewhat larger parts. But you know what? To be honest with you, it's a 1/44 scale kit. You're always gonna have to deal with something small. I mean, that's just how it is, due to the size. But either way, let me know what you guys think about these high grades and real grades. And that is pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching.